Hey YouTube, this is 13 Dragon Blade, aka Tachi13, coming at you with the first part of Hating the Meta. This is just a little segment that I'm going to basically explain on some tech cards that you can use against the meta, explain what they do. I've just got a few of the cards, not all of them, and I'll also be discussing what archetypes are getting kind of out there. First off, the mermails are getting quite popular because of the release of Abyss Rising, so the mermails have been getting quite a lot of attention. Machinas, machines, Gigiras, because of Gigant X, and also there is Madolches that have come into the picture. Not a lot of people use Madolches, but they're here and there. And then, of course, more Darkwold support with that new spell card that came out. But anyway, we're going to discuss some of the basic stuff that everybody has, such as Gores over here, and Tragodia. Handling Gores and Tragodia is simple. You can just easily run Debunk. You can run his ass over as long as you can make sure that your opponent manipulates the cards in their hand. Because a lot of people don't really like to set everything, especially with MST at 3. Some people set in Dust Tornadoes, and of course there's Heavy, so that's being a problem. Not a lot of people are going to set, which makes these two quite vivid, especially Gores when you're making those big pushes. If you use Gores in a Samurai player, they cry. As for Tragodia over here, Tragodia is a more overlooked monster. Whoa, it's a big glare. So it's just one of those cards that you toss in. I use it in my Heretics. I use this in my Heretics as well. Debunk really is the card to stop those. And then we go on to the other meta card that people love to run now. Ever since T-King was run at, what was it, I think Billy Mays was the one who ran T-King. Anyway, T-King is run at least in every side deck to main deck choice. I run it in my Heretics. It is probably a really, I think, the best stun monster in the game. It's a 1900 beater, quite big, quite annoying to deal with. It stops search power. You can stop a special summon with it. It just is really, really annoying to handle, along with the fact that everything in the meta is running around with the Gigiras. This actually shuts down the Gigiras, because you can hit their 1900 defender, and then you just have this on the field, and whatever they try to special summon is going to be completely irrelevant. And then, of course, we come into... I can't do any of this without Valor here. Valor's amazing. Valor just goes in, you discard it, you can use it for a tuner, it is very versatile, and she just basically, she nabs you wins. You just, every time they summon something, you Valor the tour guide, you win, you Valor the rabbit, you win. Valor is just, it's just a really good card in general. Now we're going to go to some other techs that people don't really like to use. Some people do, some people don't. King Tiger Wanghu. Some people still like this card, some people don't. I don't see anything wrong with it. I actually do like King Tiger Wanghu. It just stomps all over those little monsters that are running around, because a lot of people like to play monsters that get under Bottomless, because Bottomless is pretty big right now. So playing this guy, having a secured back row of Bottomlesses just helps you nab some wins, especially since King Tiger Wanghu can kill everything. And this means that your Sangam will go off. This means everything just, it immediately happens. So it just goes in for that damage. This is 17, so it's not so little. It's not a big monster, but it's quite good. And another thing I'm seeing a lot is even some Carbons running around. Carbons is actually quite good. He negates the attack by paying 800 life points, as long as he's selected as the attack target. So people usually just summon him, stall for a little bit, and then they just go and they synchro with him, because he's a level 2 tuner. He's not bad. Let's see the star foil. Anyway, he's a level 2 tuner. He's not bad. He is in everything, because, I mean, now he teleports back. A lot of stuff is going on, Teledad, and all that good shit. And, of course, we can't forget this guy. I've seen him and Spirit Reaper running around at 3 and 2 in some people's decks. Marshmallow is really annoying. Set it, flip, troll your opponent, they lose 1,000. Marshmallow I'm not going to cover too much, because that should be basic knowledge. Okay, As for spells and traps that are running around, I'm seeing some of these. I see this very rarely, but it's still there. Forbidden Chalice is a great card. It is basically a Veiler in spell form. It gives them 400 attack, but they lose their effects. So it's good to do chain during the battle phase to increase your monster's attack, chain during their battle phase to make them lose the monster effect. Anything that you want. It's exactly like Forbidden Lance. It's very versatile. Okay then, going into others. Yeah, there it is. D-Fissure. D-Fissure is still quite big. It's one of the greatest meta cards. Shuts down Dark Worlds, shuts down Gigira, shuts down a lot of decks that rely on the graveyard. If people use this in Gravekeepers, it's just a dick move, because they can't really do anything. The Gravekeepers can still get their effects off and whatnot. So, playing this with a Necro Valley, it messes up a lot of decks. I mean, Dark Worlds absolutely hate this card, and they actually have a hard time getting over it because their entire deck is just discarding. Same thing with Fables, same thing with the Madolches. It basically just stops them from having those moments of victory. It's a great card, it's like Macro. And finally, the last card I'm going to cover, because it's been slightly gaining in popularity, my favorite card, Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos is really annoying. It shuts down everything. There's no graveyard, it never existed, it never happened. Actually, I shouldn't say the last card I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover Debunk in this video as well. So, this is one of those cards that you have to look out for, because if somebody plays this, especially since rabbits like to main this card, it screws up your entire setup. Your graveyard is gone, all of your spell cards mean nothing, unless it's an MST, of course, or they activate on the field. MST this bitch immediately, because it's such a good card to use. I mean, some decks can actually run it like rabbits. Some of the decks can't run it, DD decks and such. So, that's all I have to really say. Macrocosmos is a really good card. Same thing between these. Removing is always, always welcome. Banishing the crap out of your opponent. The person's been very big in the side to main deck choices because it just banishing monsters, getting them off the board. When you banish a monster, it basically becomes useless, and then your opponent has to waste stuff to get rid of this. So, in a way, you're plussing while they're minusing. And now, last cards I'm going to cover is Debunk and Rebound. I'm going to go first with Debunk. Debunk is actually my favorite trap card. It stops hand traps. It stops stuff that go in the graveyard. It is the best counter trap for effect monsters I've ever seen, besides Divine Wrath. And that's saying a lot, considering that the only ones that we have so far, Fiendish Chain, Veiler, Incalibur Knight, and then we have this. This came out in Extreme Victory, so it's a little bit of an old pack. It is really good, though. When they released this, hand traps were in danger. I would always side this in all of my decks, because it's just so good. And then finally we come up to Rebound. Rebound was released in Return of the Duelist. If you set it, they kill it with something, or it dies, it's destroyed by your opponent's card effect, so if MST this thing, you draw a card, even if you don't activate it, which is really good. It adds something to the card instead of it being useless. So a lot of people just teched it in for the extra draw power, and then there are some of the people that teched it in for the bouncing method. That's why Brio became useless, that's why Grand Mole became useless, Compulsory, and Churne if it was legal. But you get the point. Basically, everything that would bounce, you stop it with this card and just negates, destroys. It's really good. Okay, and let's take a look. Did I miss anything? Nope, that's it. Alright then, YouTube. This is Itachi13, signing out. I hope you enjoyed my hating on the meta, basic things that you should use for every deck. If you technically want to make sure that you are meta prepared for anything, those are some really good choices. This is Itachi13, signing out.